to really set the mood in any room, reach for a piece of wallpaper with book after book. This is a design option that is surging in popularity. Colette Lloyd is here to offer advice on how to make a choice that you will love to live with. Colette, it's great to see you.
Thank you.
I was just telling you, you're preaching to the choir as far as I go, because I would wallpaper my whole house if my husband would let me. How has wallpaper these days evolved? What's new?
Well, with all the new printing availabilities that we have and, you know, just the opening of the styles anymore, where we're not committed to just one style, where we can bring in all sorts of different styles to our rooms.
So there's definitely more choices out there.
There's definitely.
Do you find when you're working with clients that more choices equals more overwhelm?
Yes, definitely.
It's hard to kind of pinpoint what works for them and in what room.
It is true.
What's step one in deciding, will this wallpaper work and will it have longevity? Will I love it for months, years to come?
Well, there's a couple of things to factor in. Sometimes we have things in our home that we can't change easily, like carpet or tile. And so those you want to work around and bring in those colors that you love.
Okay.
And then you can, you know, work from there.
And so considering your space, looking at the actual size of the room, I imagine, too, comes into play when you're choosing a pattern or a scale of pattern.
Sometimes. Sometimes people feel like they can't put a large pattern in a small space, and that's not true. Oftentimes we put large patterns or dark patterns in small powder baths, and it's beautiful.
See, I've done big. I just told you, huge, like, metallic trees in my powder bath, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
A great look.
So when people are struggling with commitment, wallpaper sometimes feels so permanent, even though I know it's not as bad as it used to be, right, in terms of removing an application. But if people feel stuck on the commitment side, you say they really need to think about the color. How does that play out?
Well, I think they need to think about, I don't think they need to worry about the color so much because they can remove it easily and everything changes. And so I think sometimes people are afraid to go with the color because they think they have to live with it forever.
But that's not the case. All right, so what about the color of your existing room? You talked about carpet and tile. Those things are hard to change, so how do you choose a color then that complements the room that you're working with?
What I like to do is have people come into the showroom and I will get kind of a feel for their style. Then they can come in, and then what we can do is we can pull some different options for them. And I always suggest that they take it home, pin it up on their wall, live with it for a couple of days, and see what the lighting in their space does and their color, you know, the colors that draw from their room.
So you're really testing it out, different hours of the day, different sunlight. Do you like, if a client's a little hesitant, they're a little apprehensive, do you like to suggest to them something like this, where there's a lot of different colors so they could play and pull with throw pillows and mix things up over the years? Or is it better to stick with kind of more of a neutral base that allows them to play with the colors in the room? Does that make sense?
Yes. Sometimes the background of the paper makes a difference. And I have an example here. This is basically the same type of print, but this has a creamier background and this has the whiter background. So this is going to pop more and be more definite in your room. This is going to be more soft and subtle. And same with right here. Then you've got, you know, your white background.
Same print.
And basically the same print, geometric, but it kind of shows the difference. You know, if you like geometric, maybe we find the right geometric for you.
And how does that affect your accents then in the rest of the room?
Well, on this is wonderful because then if it's something similar in color, then you can bring in orange or a pop of red, pop of green or teal, and, you know, really play with the accents.
You mentioned geometrics. I wanted to ask you about geometrics. Is that a trend that's going to come and go and we'll be mad at ourselves that we put geometrics all over our walls?
No. I think the trend is, it's what it is whatever you like. When we were coming back to a lot of the mid-century papers that you see behind you, and those have been really popular, and those are really fun, and you can see that there's a lot of color.
See, I'd be way too scared to do something like this. This feels way too trendy to me.
No, it's very popular right now. And
what's your take on metallics? I know those are also...
Metallics are really fun because they add a lot of depth to the wall covering and a lot of pop, and they're fun. And I don't know if you can pick up in the metallic in this paper, in the rose, but there's a little metallic and sheen which works well. And then, or you can get more bold and kind of do a mixture of your metallics.
Those are so pretty.
Or you could just do plain with a little metallic sheen in between.
Now, some of these have texture. When should we be pulling in texture when it comes to our wallpaper selection?
Texture I love because texture is a great time to use when you don't want to really introduce a lot of color, but you want your wall to look different than just plain paint. And I've got some great textures behind here to show you the different. This is a paper that looks like wood. It actually is textured, but very subtle in color.
All right, do you recommend doing one wall as sort of an accent, or can you really, depending on the size of the room, get away with a whole wall-to-wall effect?
That's a really good question because oftentimes people feel like they're a little afraid of committing to the whole room in a small space. But in a small space, I always recommend doing the whole room because you have the sink, the toilet, for example, the mirror, the sconces.
It breaks it up.
It's just another accent, but where you do the whole room, then it becomes, the beautiful background.
It becomes the statement. In a bigger room, then, can you get away with just one wall?
In the bigger room, like in a master bedroom, behind that focus wall of your bed, then maybe something like this would be beautiful, and then mirror it with something with some sheen and not just paint.
What do you mean mirror? So this is behind the bed and this is on the other walls?
And maybe on the other walls, for example.
Yeah.
And then I have another example here. Same thing. Here's a nice, beautiful palette, but you could bring in blues. You could bring in
the surrounding walls.
Right.
What's your take on the removable wallpapers? We're hearing a lot about those.
Some of them are okay, but if it's a peel and stick, those are really difficult and they don't really apply very well to the wall. They oftentimes bubble.
At the end of the day, Colette, when should we consider a wallpaper, something with texture, metallics, color, as opposed to just a regular paint?
I think always.
Always. I kind of knew you'd say that. Always. Okay.
Always. I mean, when you, if you've ever experienced putting wall covering in any room, you realize that, oh my gosh, it just is beautiful.
It makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, and you cannot get the impact with just paint that you can with wall covering, even if you just do a plain color.
Well, and if you have not visited a wallpaper store since the 80s, now is the time. And I think this selection is kind of proof in the picture because there's so many great colors and patterns to choose from. Where can we come and kind of peruse your books and offerings that you have?
I have a great showroom that has tons of samples that you can come and get a feel for, check them out, take them home to your space, and I help you with the colors. That is on 779 South and 200 East, just on the corner of 8th South and 2nd East in Salt Lake City.
Awesome, great advice too, because I know people are a little nervous, so I think you kind of helped calm their fears. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you.
Great to have you.